Hi guys, welcome back to Exmo. I have some announcements to make, but I want to do them at the end of the video, so I'll go ahead and get started, and I hope you stick around so you can see what's coming for future videos. Today I'm going to talk about what I would do if I were God, and I feel like that might be a little bit controversial and blasphemous, but we're going to do it anyway. I'm going to base this on the Mormon God, and I'm going to start by talking about the Mormon God and what Mormons believe God is like, just to give a little background. And although that you may not have been Mormon, you might still be able to draw some parallels to whatever God it was that you believed in. So I hope you'll stick around and see what I'm talking about. So Mormons, including me once upon a time, believe that we were basically sent here to Earth to be tested, to have challenges, to learn things, to grow, to have the ability to make choices between right and wrong, and learn the difference between good and evil, and be able to make mistakes and grow from them. We were also taught that Jesus died for our sins, and so all of our mistakes and sins that we had here on earth would be forgiven if we repented of them. So if you are baptized and you are married in the temple and you repent of all your sins, you have the opportunity to go to the celestial kingdom, which Mormons believe is the highest kingdom of heaven. This is a super basic overview of what Mormons believe about God and the afterlife, so I will leave a link in the description to what they call the plan of salvation if you want to learn more about it. Mormons believe that all of this stuff, baptism and temple marriage and stuff, can actually happen after you die, which is why they perform baptisms for the dead, but that's a story for another day. So basically the whole point for Mormons is that they believe that after we go through this whole process, after we are able to learn and grow on earth and we do all the things we're supposed to do, we can possibly be able to be gods the way that our God is, that we get to have our own spirit children, that we get to have our own planet to populate and to basically just continue this cycle. They also believe that our God, Elohim, was once a human like we are, who went through this exact same process with his God and his God's plan of salvation, and it's kind of like a continuous thing forever and ever, basically gods upon gods upon gods, and a never-ending cycle. When you really stop to think about it, this makes very little sense, but that's beside the point. Anyway, this is apparently God's great plan. So Mormons believe that God is omnipotent, all-knowing, and omnibenevolent. And if this is true, then I think their God really sucks. So today I'm going to talk about why and what I would do if I were God. In this life, some people have it better than others. Some people are born with nothing, and some people are born really rich. Some people are born in crappy time periods. Some people are born sick. Some people are given every opportunity in the world. Some people suffer unimaginable pain, be it mental or physical. Some people are killed when they're really young. Some people live a long, full life. Basically, not all of us go through the same thing on earth, and some of us go through hell. As a Mormon, I was taught that we each had to go through certain specific trials to learn the things that we needed to. And I was also taught that you knew about these things before you came to Earth. Now, I'm not sure if that is actual Mormon doctrine that was said by a prophet, or it's just one of those lovely Mormon rumors that kind of gets passed around. But either way, I learned that every horrible thing and every good thing we go through on Earth is all a part of God's plan. If I were the omnipotent, omnibenevolent God that Mormons claim to worship, I wouldn't force my children that I love to go through some of the hell we go through on Earth. I wouldn't let somebody's baby die a painful death in their arms just so they could learn something. I wouldn't let a child suffer and be tormented and go through some of the horrible things that children go through at the hands of an adult just so some old guy could learn a lesson about free agency. No, if I were God and I had the ability to do anything and I needed my spirit children to learn something specific, I'd plant it in their brains. I wouldn't force them to suffer. I'd give them the ability to understand pain, to understand suffering, understand love, understand hatred, understand kindness, loneliness, charity, whatever it is that they need, without ever making them go through it. Because if God can do anything, he can certainly give us all of the understanding and experience we need without torturing us. If I were God and I needed some way for the sins of my children to be redeemed, I wouldn't send one of my children to Earth and have him suffer for the sins of all the other children, be brutally murdered, and then reborn in order to be able to forgive my children. I would just, forgive them. That way I wouldn't have to impregnate one of my virgin daughters without her consent to have this child, raise him up, and then have him be crucified and resurrected. If I were God and I had one kid who was created or born evil, like Satan / Lucifer apparently was, I wouldn't cast him down to hell. I'm God, for heaven's sake. I would just zap him into not being evil. It's that easy. Mormons like to say that we have to come to Earth so that we can learn about free agency, because you have to choose to be good or evil. But if God were omnipotent, it would be extremely simple for him to give Satan whatever it was he needed in order to not be evil anymore. All you have to do is make it so that with his free will, he will make good choices instead of bad ones. Whatever coping skills, knowledge, compassion, empathy, whatever it is that he needs, just let him have it. Let him understand the consequences of making bad choices. Make him take a class, whatever. If God were omnipotent, it would be possible to have it both ways, because he would be capable of anything. And if it's not possible for God to do that, he's not omnipotent. And why would I do all these things if I were God? Because God is apparently omnibenevolent, which basically means perfect goodness. An omnibenevolent being with the power to do anything wouldn't wipe out nearly the entire population of the earth in a global flood just because they were wicked. Which, by the way, they were not all wicked. We're talking about not just adults, but children, babies who drowned. And not to mention all the plants and animals, everything that was on Earth, everybody that was on Earth and wasn't on the ark would have drowned. Why not instead just snap your fingers and let them not be wicked? If God can do anything, he can leave our free agency intact and find an alternative to pain and suffering at the same time. If I were God, polygamy would not be a thing. Mormons don't practice polygamy anymore, as in they don't take multiple wives at the same time. However, Mormon men are still allowed to be sealed to more than one wife at a time. So say a man's wife passes away, he can take another wife and be sealed to her for time and all eternity as well. So technically, Mormons still practice polygamy, it's just in the afterlife. If I were God, I wouldn't force my daughters to be stuck with that for all of eternity. Not to mention that once their husband becomes a god, then they're going to get pushed into the background and never talked about again, and he's going to get the credit for creating everything and everybody's going to talk about and worship him, never mention her again. Unless somebody happens to write a song about her, and then maybe the Mormons will be like, oh yeah, so she sort of exists, but we're not going to talk about it because it's too sacred. Why is that? Maybe it's because our God has multiple wives, so there's multiple mothers in heaven. And which one's mine? It doesn't make any sense. So let's also talk really quickly about the idea that there are gods upon gods upon gods, and that we can become gods too, and that at one point our God was also human who became a god. If you believe that God created this plan, what plan did his God create? Did our God just picked the same one and was like, oh yeah, that one worked good, let's just do that. This plan that, by the way, includes one son descending into darkness, one son being murdered to redeem the rest, and billions of other people leading agonizing lives. So does every god go with the same plan? Does every planet, every generation of gods have their own Satan and their own Jesus Christ? Will each planet lose the gospel and then have to have it brought back by their own Joseph Smith, who very messily brings it back using a rock and a hat with a bunch of extra wives? Is this the plan that we all have to go with when we become gods? Or did our God just make up this very distressing plan all on his own? In which case, can I choose to worship one of the more kind and loving gods that wouldn't do that to his children? I remember learning about this stuff in seminary and asking questions, and if it ever got to the point where the seminary teacher or the Sunday school teacher or whatever didn't know the answers to the questions, they would just say something like, well, we haven't had that revealed to us yet, or we won't know in this life, but when we pass away, we will know all the things. I'm sorry, but that's not good enough for me. If I don't have answers to these questions, then how am I supposed to know if I'm being told lies or being told the truth? And while I'm still on this tirade, let's discuss praying. According to Mormons, everything is God's plan. Everything. Every decision that people are going to make, he knows that. He knows what choices they're going to make. He knows what's in people's hearts. He knows if they're good or evil. He knows what's kind of natural disasters are going to happen. He knows who's going to die and who is going to live. Basically, he knows what is going to happen in every situation that ever has been, ever will be. He doesn't change his mind. He has a plan, he's sticking to it, and he knows everything. So then why is prayer necessary? Let's say that it was part of God's plan that you were going to lose your arm to a horrible infection. Obviously, you don't want to lose your arm, so you pray and pray and pray and hope that God will see fit to make sure that you don't lose your arm. But it's part of God's plan that you're going to lose your arm, so it doesn't matter how much you pray, you're going to lose it anyway. Or let's take it in vice versa and say that it's God's plan that you're not going to lose your arm. So you pray and you don't lose your arm, but it wouldn't have mattered if you had prayed because it was God's plan that you were going to keep your arm anyway. So let's apply this to every situation. If there is some divine, albeit horrifying, plan that an all-knowing, unchanging God has set on course, why do you need to pray? Or does God change his mind? Is his plan some kind of go with it kind of plan where nothing is predetermined? That doesn't seem to go along with the theology. If I were God, I wouldn't care who my children wanted to spend their life with. I would want them to do whatever makes them happy. There is no reason why two men or two women shouldn't live a beautiful, happy, fulfilling life together. If that's what brought them joy, why would I care? And if for some bizarre reason there was a problem with that, then I wouldn't create people gay in the first place. Why would I create something that I didn't want to have happen? Refer back to what I said about being able to do anything. Regardless, to me, it seems silly that people wouldn't be able to love whoever they want. It's not hurting anyone. So if I were God, it would be fine with me. So in short, if I were God, my plan would suck a whole lot less and make a whole lot more sense. If I were God, I would make sure that there weren't thousands of religions and everybody had to try to find the right one and worship the right God. If I were God, I would want my children to be happy. As a mom in real life, I would do whatever it took to make sure my children would never have to suffer because I love them. If I could make their lives easy for the sake of their happiness and well-being and still be able to teach them important life lessons, I would do that. And that's what I would do if I were God. That's going to be it for today, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. And I do have a few announcements, so don't go just yet. First of all, I made it to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you guys so much for subscribing and supporting this little channel. I love having this little community, and I love seeing all of your comments and reading about your experiences, and I just really appreciate your support, so thank you. I did say when I got to 1,000 subscribers that I would go back and visit church and make a video about it. And so that, I guess, is going to happen probably this weekend, but I am not sure when the video for that will actually be uploaded, and here's why. I'm moving. My husband and I just bought our first house, and we close in less than 2 weeks, and we've got a lot to do before then, so I'm going to be pretty busy. On top of that, it's also my husband's birthday soon, so we're going to be celebrating that. We're going to be going to a concert, and then between the packing and getting ready to move and actually moving and having 4 little kids in the middle of that entire process, it's going to be crazy for a few weeks, so I'm not really sure what my upload schedule is going to be for a while. So I'm sorry about that, but I will try to keep you guys updated after I get the community tab here on YouTube, which should be any day now. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at exmo_lex. I do try to keep everybody updated on what's going on video-wise on there. And if you want to contact me directly, I did actually set up an email address this week. So if you send me something that's not spam or hate mail or something weird like that, I will try to email you back when I get time. Although, like I said, it's going to be a little bit hectic for me here for the next few weeks. But yeah, I will try to check it and I will try to get back to everybody. So you can send me an email at exmolex@gmail.com. That will be in the description. And you can also check the description for links to my Twitter and Instagram if you want to follow me there. Again, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you all have a super fabulous day, and I will see you next time. Bye! Okay, so for all the people who've been very nicely asking me if I am going to go march topless on Temple Square, no!